Hi, welcome to Lapland Bushcraft. We're back again in Finland. We've climbed the mountain snowshoeing and we just wanted to stop and show you some tracks that we found of the animals that are here all year round. Obviously, if you're in a survival situation, these are the types of animals that will be really good to be able to trap and snare and to be able to hopefully put in your cook pot. Okay, so we come down to the floor. The first track that's right in front of me here is a squirrel track. If you come in very closely, you can see the little tail has come behind. Let me move over a little. The tail has come behind here, and its front paws. With a squirrel, unless they're stood still, their front and their back paws tend to come together. So you will get one slightly bigger track, which you might think is something different. You might think is maybe a ptarmigan or a grouse, but actually this is a squirrel track. Tail and his front paws. In front here, I'm going to have to stand on the squirrel tail, unfortunately, but there's plenty more to be able to see. This one here, this is a hare. So you've got the back here, with potentially bottom, or maybe his back feet, depending, but the front here. Hares move in direction. You've got your big feet at the back, and the big feet overtake the front feet. So we know that this one's moving in a right to left direction. This will be his front feet, and this will be his two back feet, moving at quite speed, going along the trail. Later on, if I can find one, I'll show you a fox and a hare where they intercept, so you can see that the fox and the hare are always playing with each other, playing in inverted commas, of course. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed my little chat so far, and we'll pick up again later with you. Okay, so we followed the hare tracks up through, and if you remember, I said we would try and show you where the fox and the hare have met, or paths have crossed. Whether it's come to something, we won't know. There's no sign here to say that there was any struggle in any way. But okay, here are the hare tracks coming up through. If you remember, I said you have your back paws come in front of your front paws. So front paws, back paws. So it's obviously moving at quite some speed, coming up through the woods. So that's your hare, making its way along its journey. And then if you come back over to the other side, this here is the fox, following its route through. Now, like I say, we'll never know whether this was separate or at the same time, whether it was a chase. But you can see up here that there is a bigger area where definitely the hare and the fox's paths have crossed. I would imagine, and I know actually, that the fox would have smelt the hare and would have followed its trail, and maybe followed it back to where it slept the night. Unlike rabbits, hares don't have a warren or a place where they go to sleep. They do tend to stay within the same area, but a hare will basically find a sheltered area and bed down, so it will kind of bed itself into the snow and kind of build itself up around it and fluff itself up together, and it will bed down in that way. So if a fox follows the trail of the scent back to where the hare is sleeping, it stands a better chance of catching its meal for the day, maybe. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed the talk so far. Maybe we'll come back to you later. Thank you very much for watching. We're Lapland Bushcraft. You can come to us online on www.nomadbushcraft with a hyphen in between nomadandbushcraft.com. Thank you. Just coming down the mountain, and I noticed this wonderful birch tree here with a magnificent display of the bark. If you pull this off and collect it up, you need very little to get your fire going, but it's an excellent source of tinder. This here, you can see it's still covered in snow, so you think it would be wet, but actually this would still light without very little effort at all. With a steel and a flint, or maybe matches if you're lucky enough to have some, but really good. Collect a good handful, maybe twice as much as this would be good, because obviously the more you've got, the better it is for the chances of getting a good fire going. Okay, hanging on the tree here, you can see this kind of fuddy stuff hanging on. This is called Alectoria, or more commonly known as old man's beard. Whilst I stopped having my tea, I saw this here. If you pulled off this and take it away from the branch, like this, you collect enough of this, it acts as a really good tinder source for your fire as well. Excellent stuff. So, if you didn't have a flask, as I showed you, Alectoria and the birch bark, excellent for fire starting. The great thing about being out in the wilderness is natural hooks everywhere you look. On your pine trees like this, as the tree gets bigger, the boughs stop and actually only have trees up to the top where the light comes through. So that gives us a great place to hang our rucksack. So we talked to you a lot about making fires and having a cup of tea out in the wild. We're English. United Kingdom are well known for having their tea at regular intervals. So rather than making a fire out here where it's on a good day minus 15 to minus 20 degrees, you don't have time to stop always and make that fire. In an emergency situation, of course, you make time. But for us, we bring a flask with some hot water and we make some pine needle tea along the trail. It's a quick, hot drink just to keep us going. It's a great thing. So I said about having a hot drink and making pine needle tea. This is your pine needles. Obviously in the forest where we are, there are hundreds, thousands, millions of trees. You take your pick. What you need to do is break this up just by giving it a good twist. Obviously they are a bit prickly and you just need to go carefully, but break them up and then add them to your cup. And in true Blue Peter fashion, here's some I made earlier. Okay, so flask of hot water, pour the water onto the needles, set your flask down again so you don't lose your hot water. Now pine needle tea needs to sit for some 4 to 5 minutes to ferment and to let the taste of the pine come out and to let the sugars and obviously the good bits that are good for you, and obviously it gives it a bit of a taste. So we'll let this sit for some 4 to 5 minutes and then give it a stir and then we'll have a taste. We've let this sit for a little while, we've given it a bit of a stir with a twig. So as you can see, it kind of looks very similar, but it just means that the water's actually got some flavour to it. So what you need to do now is take the pine needles out. And be careful though, because obviously the water's pretty hot. Okay, you don't need to take it all out, it isn't going to kill you. Okay, so, smells good. Tastes pretty good too. Everything that you have in the wild isn't always going to be like that which you have at home. It's not about the food, it's about what it does for you. A nice warm drink really warms your spirits as well. It's really good for you.